Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Omar Christidis, Arabnet.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's my privilege to be the moderator of the discussion today on Rethinking Experience, the Customer of the Future. My name is Omar Christidis. I'm the founder and CEO of Arabnet. We're a platform for tech, business, innovation, and entrepreneurship. And I'm going to be introducing our esteemed panelists. We're going to be asking them to come on stage one-on-one. I ask you to give them a round of applause after each one as they enter. And I'll start with Mr. Ahmad BinDawood. Mr. Ahmad BinDawood is the CEO of BinDawood Holding, which is a Saudi retail and supermarket company over 50 years old. BinDawood has two key brands, the BinDawood and Danube, with 75 supermarkets, 10,000 employees. And Ahmad has been leading digitization at BinDawood, including the launch of their e-commerce app, Danube Online. Welcome, Ahmad. Our next speaker is Mr. John Hadden, the CEO of Alshaya Group. Please welcome him to the stage. Alshaya Group is one of the major regional retailers with over 2,800 stores, 44,000 employees. And before Alshaya, John was Director of Store Development at Starbucks for Europe, Middle East, and Africa. Welcome, John. Our third speaker is Faraz Khalid, the CEO of Noon. Please welcome him to the stage. Noon is the region's homegrown e-commerce company and a Saudi company. Noon has grown into an ecosystem of services across fashion e-commerce, grocery, payments, and aims to empower the next generation of digital businesses in MENA. Before Noon, Faraz was the founder and MD of Namshi. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Yusuff Ali, the chairman and MD of Lulu Group International. Welcome him. Lulu Group is a leading regional importer, wholesaler, and retailer of consumer goods, and in particular of food. Lulu has 213 hypermarkets and malls. I think this one. 213 hypermarkets and malls, 57,000 staff, and $8 billion in turnover. A really heavy-hitting panel here of retailers and business leaders. Welcome to you all. And, you know, as we start off our discussion today, I wanted to kick off, this panel is really about changing consumer behavior and changing experience. So I wanted to ask you first, what data can you share with us from your organizations around how consumer behavior has shifted, especially in the last, 24 months with COVID and its impact on consumers? And, Ahmad, maybe we'll start with you and go around this way this time, and we'll mix it up in the next one.
Sure. Thank you, first of all, for letting me be the first one. Actually, that is important, and nobody denied the fact that how important it is in order to respond quickly to the changes that is happening with the consumer behavior. And I will give you an example here. For some of the largest FMCG manufacturers, actually responded quickly in order to the changes that happened with the consumer behavior when it comes to selling more of healthy food and products, and they have reported the spikes in their sales with such items. Basically, with the and also the other items, which is like fortified with vitamin C or zinc, and customers were looking for improve their immunity, you can say, during the pandemic. In our business also, what we have done, we have seen a spike just, you can say, in March in 2020, just after the COVID started. A spike of downloads in our online app by 400%. We have seen a spike in sales by 200%. And also the customers are looking for better way of doing shopping. So for example, having all this data around food, rather than just depending on, like when they come to the app and selecting the items and coming to the store and no information around products, they were actually looking for more sort of engagement, even if they don't transact on the app. So we start adding nutrition facts and information on how you can better navigate through the product and even select them. So all this is changing the way we look at the consumer behavior and their shopping, you can say, preferences.
Thank you, Ahmad. So great, we've seen healthier interest in healthier products. We've seen increase in demand for online purchasing. Faraz, what have you seen with your consumers at Noon?
Yeah, thanks for having us, first of all. No, it's been an extraordinary time, right? The last 18 months in particular have been, there's this, these have been the months where decades have happened for us. And I think the region was always on the cusp of sort of a breakthrough in e-commerce adoption. I think over the last 18 months in particular, people were just forced to shop online. So we saw up to 10x more demand in certain categories, right? So we saw consumables. So going back a little bit, in frontier markets when e-commerce is growing, in new markets, typically electronics, beauty, and fashion tend to be the main categories, right? And which is true for this region before 2020. But with COVID and what's happened over the last year or so, we saw that there's a dramatic shift in categories and demand patterns of our customers. So while those categories that we used to sell have sold, but we see people shop for more consumables online, people are buying more staples online, and that's a very encouraging trend because 40% of all retail is concentrated in those categories. There's been a jump in e-commerce adoption, particularly. We estimate that the e-commerce penetration went up from 3% to 6% over the last 18 months or so. I think that's a material shift for our market. The second big thing that...
Which category? 3 to 6% penetration.
I think we believe the overall e-commerce penetration now for Saudi Arabia is in that region.
Okay.
I think that's material. I think the second massive shift that happened was you used to hear about cash on delivery being the dominant source of transactions in this market. Guess what? One day, we just couldn't accept cash, right? The government said you can't accept cash for digital transactions. So overnight, you went to 100% e-commerce digital payment adoption. And while that has unwound slightly, we see that there's been a baseline shift in transactions. I think the median of cash on delivery payments in our market was close to like 70%. In Saudi, where cash on delivery payments for e-commerce orders, that's probably shifted more to 40% now. So, and that change is permanent, and it's deeply enabling this shift to e-commerce because you can do a lot more now. You can sell milk and grocery and all that stuff because you don't have to wait for cash. I think those two are like material trends, and I think a number that just came out recently, MADA, which is a local electronic payment network in Saudi particularly, is reporting that e-commerce transactions in Saudi Arabia on the MADA network are 7 times more than 2019 this year.
Wow.
7x. So all of that is enabling infrastructure. These are conditions which will help us leapfrog and get to the global median in e-commerce penetration. So still, like we say 5-6% is decent, but South Korea is at 40%, China is at 35%. The future is digital, and I think all these changes are going to enable that shift.
Great, thank you, Faraz. And as our audience, you are participants in this, so I'm going to ask you a quick question. How many of you bought a consumable good, a grocery online before COVID, if you'll raise your hand? Okay. And how many bought one after COVID, if you'll raise your hand? Okay. So a little bit difficult for me to see behind me, but I think we definitely see the increase here in our audience. Mr. Yusuff, can you share with us some stats from your business and from Lulu?
As rightly my friend, distinguished panelist, my friend BinDawood told, the tendency after the COVID, it's changed a lot, consumer behavior, we can say. See, healthy food for immunity, gluten-free, diet-free, diabetic food, egg-free, sugar-free, that type of products was giving more attention by the consumers.
Okay.
They started buying more in that category for just immunity. Second is digitalization, that means e-commerce. Our business, about 500% increase in e-commerce, because rightly just now we saw that consumers started buying through digitalization. So our business increased to 500%. So this is the two major change in the behavior of the customers.
Okay.
And we also planned according to that instead of consumer coming to us, we want to go to the consumers. Either we start shops near the communities or to increase the e-commerce.
Okay.
Thank you.
Excellent. And John, I'll end the question with you. And in particular, maybe you have the largest store network, physical store network of everyone. And I'm curious how, what statistics you saw about the shift in consumer behavior from your business.
I think it's interesting. I think to build on what the guys have said, I think there's two major shifts for me. I think first and foremost is the young, digitally native mobile consumer who has changed dramatically. So everybody now is on their mobile phones, checking prices, ordering things. And I think that never existed 4 or 5 years ago as much as it is now. I think the second thing that really changed everything was COVID. COVID for us was a game changer in so many different ways in terms of how we interact with our consumer, where they search, and as a traditional bricks and mortar retailer, some of our units were closed, some of our units we had restricted access. We had to change. And what we managed to do over the course of the last, we started the journey anyway, but the last 18 months is create a $500 million digital business by putting all of our brands online. So at the moment we have over 100 e-commerce and mobile app sites across the whole of MENA, the largest digital footprint for any retailer across the region. And what we've seen is the consumer now is choosing how they want to play, choosing how they want to interact. And I think one of the changes we've made as a business is we've told all of our merchants, you go wherever the consumer goes. Traditionally in the past, we've said we're a bricks and mortar retailer. When someone comes to our shop, we give them the greatest customer service possible, and we end the transaction once they leave the premises. What we're saying now is whether they want to go onto marketplaces such as Noon, whether they want to shop on our .com sites, whether they want to shop on TikTok, and we've got an exclusive relationship coming up with TikTok over the next couple of weeks. Wherever that consumer wants to go, we have to be there, because we can't just assume they're going to come into bricks and mortar stores and malls anymore, because they're more hesitant. And I think over the course of the last 6 to 9 months, some landlords have done it better than others, is how do you get that comfort? How do you get that re-engagement to make sure that store experience is as strong as it's been over the past few years?
John, I want to ask you a quick question on this. You mentioned young consumers. Have you seen an increase in older consumers also shopping online? Has this been, because I feel like young consumers are already digital savvy, right?
I think we've always got to context it against the demographic of the region. And this country in particular, 70% of the people here are under the age of 35. So when you start to think about where do I want to spend my money, where do I want to focus, for me it's still on the youngsters, because they will come through the businesses, come through over time. But I know from my own experiences, I talked to my parents. My parents never shopped online pre-COVID. Now, to get the iPad off my mother when I'm talking to her over the phone is virtually impossible, because she's playing, she's ordering things, she's trying things. So I think as time goes on, I think we just need to be careful where the focus is. Otherwise, you end up spreading too thin.
Great. My mom is on TikTok, so I'm just amazed by her. But Ahmad, I think you had something that you wanted to mention on this.
Actually, it's another example on how that is important, and also, like when you touched upon the age of consumers actually who are going for online and interacting with the brand in different way. Responding to the pandemic and the penetratory buying that happened during the pandemic, we start approaching the customers in different way also. Normally, we used to have the normal events, which is going throughout the year with the pricing strategy, the new selection, and all that. And we changed it to having invited chefs in our stores and demonstrating to the customers how to use the products that actually they are buying and how to have even better experience. Now, food is about like having the best way of doing that ingredient you are taking. And we approach the customers throughout all the social media networks, and we managed to get more than 1 million hits across all the platforms during that event alone.
Amazing. And it's kind of similar to what you said you were already doing in the app, right? Creating more content and tying in content with the purchase of the products, right?
Definitely. I mean, like omni-channel and also creating that seamless experience is also part of it.
Excellent. So I want to move on from consumer behavior trends and look at the broader trends that are reshaping the market. We're seeing a lot of different activities from influencers making a big play, like Huda Beauty, which has become a massive success story in the region. We've seen the rise of quick commerce, delivery in under 30 minutes, especially some of the consumable items. So what trends do you believe are really reshaping commerce and business? And maybe we'll start with you, Faraz, this time.
Sure, yeah. I think we're living in extraordinary times, right? We see that over the next 5 years, more and more online shopper. Online users will become internet shoppers. Internet shoppers will buy more frequently. I think at some level, one thing you can be sure of is that expectation is always going to go up, right? So globally, if you follow the news cycle a little bit, this quick commerce is coming up. It's the next big thing. Instant gratification is real. So people don't want to wait till tomorrow for their order. They want things now. They want to sort of press the checkout button, and then hopefully the doorbell rings in 30 minutes or so. And a lot of it is coming from the other use cases that have graduated them to e-commerce. So a lot of people are ordering food online. That comes in 30 minutes. People get cars online, and it arrives in 5 minutes. And why is my pair of shoes going to come tomorrow, right? That's not cool. So I think we believe our region will really leapfrog many other sort of developing markets in this, is that the density of dark stores, the sheer ubiquity of quick commerce is going to go up dramatically in all emerging markets, because that's in some way an easy way to give a deterministic experience to customers. So
Faraz, you mentioned dark stores. Maybe for the sake of our audience, can you just comment on what a dark store is?
These are micro warehouses in communities where customers can't walk in and buy something. You have to go online, go to an app, ours or yours, and then purchase something. And then a biker will go to the dark store, pick up the item, and then bring it to the customer. I think that's, we've seen globally a lot of companies raise a lot of capital over the last couple of quarters. I think it's coming here, right? Like we see Delivery Hero already do it in our region. So I think that's a huge trend. It's going to graduate. We're very excited about it because we really believe it's going to graduate a lot of online shoppers. Historically, e-commerce has been hard to scale because things come tomorrow or 3 days later and stuff like that, and it's not really like an experience that is wow or people can tell their friends about it. So I think that's one big theme that we're seeing, and we really believe that it scales. So I think all of us are going to be in it in some form, and it's not entirely clear which way, but I think the offline players will go into it. It's their natural territory. The online natives will actually have to go into it because, of course, it works with the model. I think the second big trend that we're actually seeing emerge globally as well is, I think yesterday or day before yesterday, a live streamer had $2 billion of sales on Alibaba. So live streaming and selling products to an online audience as if you were in front of them is becoming a massive theme. Most of our apps get millions of customers every day. These are massive audiences. And I think the ubiquity of these sort of streaming celebrities who have authority and they can convince people to buy something because their voice is behind it is going to rise. And particularly in our market where social media is so prevalent, right? Most people spend hours on some kind of social media platform. So we really believe that live streaming commerce is coming. We've tried some parts of it, and the results have been astounding. I think what's happening in China, what's happening in Southeast Asia will happen here, and it's something that we're keeping our eye open towards. But I think, deeply exciting times.
Kind of interesting that we've gone around all the way back to the TV shopping kind of live shopping experience. John, I want to come to you because you mentioned TikTok. I was curious if you're doing something similar to this kind of live commerce, or what trends you see more broadly that are reshaping this space.
I think I'll answer that in two parts. I'll talk a little bit about the sort of TikTok type of thing. I think what we're finding now, I'll go back to the fundamental. We can't ignore where the consumers are at the moment, and where the consumers want to be, where they want to play is on their mobile. So whether it's the social media platforms, with the marketplaces, you have to be there. You have no choice. I think at the moment what we're working through, and it's a trial and error, lots of things, we make mistakes along the way and then we get back up and go again, is how do we get the right product to that consumer as quickly and as easily and as seamlessly as possible. And I think a lot of the changes that we've seen we've introduced now buy now, pay later as a scheme that we were hesitant to start with, but it's really gaining some momentum. And I think as we begin to use social media, we've just got to be careful we focus the right brands and the right consumer to make sure they're interacting with us in the right way. Just to move the conversation a little bit, what I do want to talk a little bit about is food and beverage as well, because we have a large food and beverage business. We represent Starbucks across 18 countries. We have nearly 2,000 units. And with that business and also with the rest of our food business, the big change I've seen over the last 2 to 3 years is just delivery. And delivery has been a game changer. 18 months ago, before COVID, we never delivered Starbucks. The concept of delivering a hot product like coffee to a consumer within 30 to 45 minutes, everyone thought we were daft, we were crazy, we'd never do it. Now we've managed start with COVID, because the Starbucks were closed, we were able to pivot quite quickly and be able to get delivery sorted out really quickly, and now it's nearly 10% of our revenues. However, the consumer is very fickle, very, very fickle. If that product does not come perfect in every which way, so in terms of the way I pay, the way it's delivered to me, the way it turns up, and the quality of that product, if it's not as good as what I receive in the bricks and mortar stores, then that's it, forget it. That customer experience they have, and that first initial taste of that cup of coffee or that burger they have from Shake Shack really dictates everything. And they're much more fickle than we thought. So making sure the product as it lands to them in their home, because we know how to land product and experiences in bricks and mortar stores, making sure we can land that same product in their home environment to the same level and quality is the thing we continue to strive to do.
So before I continue with the other gentlemen, I did want to ask you both a question, since you both commented on delivery. And this is a question in my mind when it comes to Q-commerce, which is, how does it make sense to deliver something that is the basket size is so small that the delivery cost could be a significantly large portion of the product price?
You want to do that? Or do I?
I'll take a stab at it. The most beautiful quick commerce model is that small little bakala downstairs from your building. They've been doing it for decades, right? There's this store with a few thousand SKUs, you call them, and the guy comes in 20 minutes, like every time, right? I think the fact that they've been able to build that without delivery fees is hope that with the right density, these models can work. Of course, it is still very, very early days. I think teams are going to experiment, and they'll fail, and they'll fall, and something nice will emerge. But I think there's something beautiful about having a short distance to travel, having a limited set of SKUs available, and also calibrating the customer expectation that if I'm getting something in 20 minutes, I can't ask for the whole world. It's going to be a limited set of things. And I think there's something really beautiful in that simplicity, because you manage customer expectations that way. So the hero and the goal is that little bakala that is run by one guy, two brothers. They've been doing it for two decades. They're profitable. If they can do it, I think all these rocket scientists can also do it. Hopefully, that's the goal.
Great. Would you like to comment on that?
No, I just think Faraz and some of companies like him are really keeping all of us on our toes. And every time we think we're doing a good job and we get to same-day delivery, he goes down to an hour. Every time we get down to 6 hours delivery, he goes down to half an hour. So I think we're all keeping each other on the toes, and ultimately the consumer wins. I think the challenge on delivery for us, especially in the F&B space, is just that the whole cost structure is different. The packaging is more expensive, you've got a delivery cost to pick up, you can't in many instances pass all of that onto the consumer, so that whole business model for us is still something we're working through, because it's a challenge, Great.
Yusuff, I'm curious from you what trends you're seeing transforming this sector, whether it's any of the ones the gentlemen have commented on or others.
See, the consumer demand is there. We are mainly in the food retail. But we should give more choice to the customers to select an ingredients about healthy and immune food, as rightly mentioned. Before, people were coming to supermarket or hypermarket to see, select what all ingredients they require, what all health what all health food they require. Before, they were selecting by themselves after seeing. Seeing is believing, after seeing the product. Now the trend changed because of the COVID. So rightly, the e-commerce. Now, what we are doing now, we have got now in Riyadh, suppose 10 hypermarkets, 1 fulfillment center, and 1 dark store. We are increasing our e-commerce, that delivery, instead of 30 minutes or 45 minutes, we want to reduce the timing. So if the consumer asks through e-commerce that we require this with these ingredients, we will supply from the nearest hypermarket, where our hypermarket is there, to consume the timing. If it is 45 minutes, we should deliver within 30 minutes or 25 minutes. This is the new trend, number 1. Number 2, now the local governments are also looking, they are growing, locally grown products is coming in the market. Maybe my friend knows. In the market, local products, locally grown products. It's our responsibility to market these locally grown products. So all our hypermarket now we are changing to one part is only locally grown product. That locally grown product we can deliver through e-commerce also. This new trend. This is the new 2-3 innovative steps that we are going to take and to satisfy our customers. But customer will come back maybe either through e-commerce or just they will come to the supermarket, hypermarket to select the product. But consumer will be there.
Okay, excellent. And so I think really interesting the interest in locally built, locally created products. I think that's an interesting trend to touch on. Ahmad, some of the trends that you see reshaping this sector.
The most two things that I can see, especially post-COVID, are the technological changes that is coming, whether in the industry of brick and mortar or even online. And the second thing is the regulations and laws that is being changed on more frequent now. I think most of the decisions that is, whether it's the local government or even in the GCC or in the Middle East or around the world, they are having so many concerns, whether it's about food security or how to secure the homegrown foods and how to increase the local businesses and the difficulties that is today with the supply chain. And I think here that we need to think of how to keep the company agility intact in order to respond fast to those changes and not to ruin the customer experience within the store. Technology is the other thing. I mean, like today we are talking about delivery or new technology that is coming, whether the way of how customers are shopping, whether it's videos or some sort of like TV type of marketing the products. It's all about selecting the right technology for your business and how you can make that sustainable and add to the customer experience. So, and two things comes here, the customer experience and of course the efficiency in the business.
And so, you're setting me up for my next question, which is to dive into a little bit more about the technologies. And I'll start that with you, but I do want to go back to our audience. This is the audience engagement section. So I wanted to see from the trends that we touched on today, what you as our audience think is really going to be a critical trend for commerce in the future. And so what we've touched on, one of them is kind of live shopping commerce. So raise your hand if you think this is going to be a key trend moving forward. Okay. What about quick commerce? Those are like consumable items, 30 minutes or less for delivery. Please raise your hand high so that I can see. Okay, this one definitely has, I think, more votes on that. Buy now, pay later. We mentioned the ability to buy now and pay for our products later. Would you think this is going to be a big trend? Okay, a little bit less, not as many. Locally produced products. Who thinks that this is going to be a really important trend moving forward? Okay, I would say actually this may be number 2 or number 3 trend that our audience thinks. Okay, great. I think this is really exciting. And thank you, audience, we're going to come back to you shortly in our next question. But Ahmad, we'll go to you on this. What are some of the technologies that you're investing in to transform the customer experience? I mean, we've heard about the potential of things, whether, virtual reality or Internet of Things, but are there specific technologies that you think are going to be transformative, and what are those technologies?
If we're talking about the technologies, there are lots of things that is coming for the retail sector as well. So some of those technologies that is coming, the Internet of Things, IoT, we're talking about omni-channel and how you can make the customer experience very simple and giving that seamless experience whenever he's interacting with the brand. We are serving at two ends. We have the brick and mortar stores and we have the online. We have to develop them both. We have to give the access. We need to see how we can give him that experience when he searches for a product and even complete the transaction, and after that, getting the product. Some of the other things that is happening within the brick and mortar, within the stores, which is how we can be efficient. Using all sorts of, the automation, bringing automation within the business, going paperless, having concerns on how to be efficient and change quickly with the laws and changes that is coming. One of the things also that I see that is going to shift the way we do business and grocery especially is the blockchain technology. And I will give you a small example here. Today, when customers are coming to the stores and they want to buy organic products, normally they trust the logo that is on the packaging, whether it's the European leaf or other type of logos that says the product is organic. And with the blockchain, when you have that code there and you scan it, you will see and you can trace the product back to where it's started and how it became on the shelf, and you can see the entire cycle, and that is how it's going to change and transform the way that actually customers do shopping in the stores.
Okay, very interesting. I want to stay with groceries and go to you, Yusuff, on this. I'm curious what technologies you see transforming the shopping experience within your space.
See, we have to invest, all retailers have to invest in the digitalization, transforming the technology. Artificial intelligence, self-checkout. They should come, pay, self-checkout. That is, we have to use artificial intelligence. That we have to invest in the digitalization. This is the future. If anybody comes to the shop, not necessary to wait for the cashier, they can go with a self-checkout. So this we are using, we started using this artificial intelligence. So we have to invest in the digitalization. The important part, as mentioned, we have to categorize organic, local product, and similar health precaution, health cautious. So all these products, they can come and plug themselves and go directly. And also the new trend that we have to design in a particular model, not like before, means social distancing. Because we don't know when this pandemic will completely wipe out from the world. So for that also we have to utilize digitalization and we have to invest in that. If the retailers are not investing, all this innovation, transformation, new technology, they will fail. This is what I learned from this new era.
Excellent. And I'm curious, Ahmad and Yusuff, if you are concerned about the entrance of global players, people like Amazon getting into the grocery space and kind of reinventing completely the customer experience. How do you see this as a threat, and what are you doing as a strategy to respond to such a potential threat?
Actually, I will go back to since when we started our first store. It was in 1984, and the first store was in Mecca. And today, we are all over the kingdom, and you can say that whenever the competition actually is coming to the market, and with the global, the international brands, they start coming to Saudi also, we start revamping ourselves, and you can say responding quickly to the changes and the innovation that is happening within the sector. So I see always competition is a way of looking differently to your business and re-innovating and how you do things within your store. And definitely, I mean, we are learning always from the global players and the best practices that is around the world. And that will give us always, I mean, if you have that agility within the business, it's always going to give you the competitive edge advantage and striving with your business.
Great, and I think actually it comes back to some of what you were saying, John, the competition or the space with Noon and others pushing always to improve the quality of service, improve the offering. I'm curious to hear from the both of you. Maybe we'll start with you, Faraz, about the tech that's transforming your business, and kind of maybe talking a little bit about your move into this ecosystem that you've been doing.
Look, it's fascinating because the business we're in is a business of convenience. At the end, all this technology and the orchestration of all the tools and platforms we use is to deliver a very simple thing. It is, can the customer find what they're looking for? Can we promise them that it can come to them in a time that they expect, right? That's reasonable. Apples should come in 2 hours. And is it at a price that is competitive? I think those three things. And for us, technology is an enabler of that, right? And for us, if we go 2 steps down, ask why and why, the only way we can deliver great price every time is if the cost of doing business is low. Right now, and we need to time travel a little bit and say, okay, at some point in the future, 30% of all retail will be online. If you believe that future, then these companies will be operating at 20, 30, 40 times the scale. To get ready for that, most of our investments in technology are in boring things. They are in like at the back house, right? Like the orchestration of our logistics, supply chain, how many touches do we need to get the order out to the customer? Robotics in the warehouse, can we fast track the delivery to the customer? Can we move the products faster to the customer? So that the technology we use is boring, right? But it's mostly in service of this dream of reducing the cost of fulfilling an order and getting it as fast as possible to the customer. So it's a mix of mechanical engineering and robotics and things like that, moving things faster. But also, it's a bunch of data and prediction of what someone wants and when do they want it and what price do we need to have it at. So I won't use the buzzwords here, but like all of that stuff like AI and big data and all of it comes together in something very boring, which is a very efficient warehouse, which is very close to your house, which brings you things very quickly. I think that's the most disruptive thing that we see in our business.
Okay. I'm going to go with your input on this, John, but I do want to queue up our last question as well, and I'll start with you on that as well, just because I'm mindful of our time. And you know, our discussion here today is about kind of the customer experience, and there is a word, the experience economy. And I wanted to mention this, and the experience economy is a term coined in 1998 by Joseph Pine and James Gilmore to describe the next phase of the economy. Following the agriculture phase, the industrial and the service economy, they said we are going to be reaching the experience economy. And they argue that businesses must orchestrate memorable events for their customers, and that the memory itself becomes the product, right? The experience is the product. So I would love to, in addition to hearing about any tech that you're focused on as well, ask you about this shift to the experience economy, beyond just the good, the experience. You know, what does it mean for business leaders? What opportunities does it create? And what strategies are you leveraging to capture this experience economy?
I think just to dwell just for 30 seconds on the technology piece, I think, and it also talks to the experience, because the whole thing, everything we've talked about, all the esteemed panelists here have talked about is how do we improve the customer experience. So the whole thing we've discussed today is that, and how do we keep raising the bar every time we do things. From a technology perspective, to build on that, 2 things really for me. One is fulfillment. We talked a lot about fulfillment, and what we're trialing at the moment is how do we use our stores as fulfillment centers. So we're trialing something in one of our Foot Locker stores in Saudi actually at the moment, where we're putting in some lockers for fulfillment of e-commerce orders and seeing whether or not we can get closer to the consumer by using the footprint we already have, the 1,000 stores we have in Saudi Arabia, to get that product quicker. And we'll trial and error, and we'll see how we go. I think the other piece to that, because that talks to experience in terms of instant gratification, the second part of that is everything we're doing from a technology perspective as it relates to the consumer is mobile first. We do not do anything unless it directly affects the mobile experience that the consumer has. So whether that's a consumer experience in a store, so that's a sales associate of us having a mobile device in their hands to help the consumer shop within our stores, or whether that's just purely the app they have on their phone, Victoria's Secrets, H&M, whatever it may be, and how can they improve the experience? Because we've certainly seen on e-commerce that you double the conversion if you have a mobile app, which just talks to the fact that everybody these days uses their mobile phone. So I think everything we've talked about is experiential. The piece for me is in terms of how do we continue to make the shopping malls experiential? Because ultimately going forward from a profitability perspective and also scale perspective, we still are investing heavily in bricks and mortar because we still believe in bricks and mortar, because bricks and mortar gives you that ultimate overall experience. So when we're talking to many of our landlords and we're seeing how some landlords are better than others in terms of the shift, it's how do you get that total experience? People go to shopping malls for a completely different experience now than they did 5 or 10 years ago. Unless you provide that experience both as a retailer and as a landlord, then that customer will not come back again.
Okay, interesting. Faraz, you guys do a lot of work on experience, right? And you know, tell us a little bit about how you make that delightful experience.
Yeah, it's that final moment that matters, and I think we're sort of missionaries in that, right? We want to graduate you from an online user to an online shopper, so that moment in which we pass that order to you, that box is important to us. And I think in many ways, the mission is always to get more people to kind of experience e-commerce in a real way, in a weird way. Sort of, we have peak events. We have a big event called Yellow Friday where we try and graduate sort of like, very, very large sort of parts of population to e-commerce by offering insane deals, just getting someone to experience it once so that they know that there's something beautiful in you sitting over here and saying, I want those socks delivered to me by evening today. And when that happens, it's a beautiful thing. And then you're never not doing that. Actually, today our team put together this, we worked with the FII to say, okay, how can we make people coming from all parts of the world sort of experience great e-commerce in Saudi? So we put a locker outside the Ritz, you might have seen it. So everything that's in our warehouse in Riyadh, if you order it, within 2 hours, it'll be delivered to that locker. And we want people to feel it, and once they feel it, they'll be like, a few things will happen. We're no longer lagging the world in technology or the delivery of e-commerce experiences. And 2, once you experience that, you're like, this makes so much sense. I'm never doing anything else again. I think the proof is in the pudding, and I think in many ways, our business only scales if we can scale these delightful experiences.
You guys pull a lot of stunts on this Yellow Friday, right? You paint everything yellow, so I think if you see it sometime, you'll definitely recognize that this is noon. But Ahmad, how are you changing the customer experience and investing in this experience economy?
See, it's been said that the only businesses that will exist in the next 10 years who nurture the human experience. And in our field, in our business, we are selling food, FMCG, and customers, they like still to come to the stores and feel the products and touch them, taste them. So a part of this experience is actually the atmosphere that we are creating within the stores, the product that we are sourcing for them, and of course, they want to have interaction with the products. I just talked about also the chef event that we had in the stores and how that impacted the sales positively. Customers, when they come to the stores, they try the products, and you can say, manage to influence his decision in order to buy the other product that we are convincing him to buy. And the other experience that is famous worldwide, the Apple stores. So no matter whenever you go into Apple stores, you will have that wow effect, and they have managed it and did it very well, that it's very simple. And customers, whenever they come, they touch the products, they feel it, they see the difference, and then they make a decision whether to buy it or not. So the experience is always important, and simplifying the entire journey for the customer is the key here.
Okay, excellent. And Mr. Yusuff, your thoughts on this experience economy and the strategies that you're pursuing to create an experience beyond just the sale of products?
See, from grocery experience, we go on to supermarket. Supermarket, after the supermarket experience, we go on to big supermarket, then hypermarket. This trend was there till the COVID. And e-commerce was not growing at that time, frankly speaking. When the pandemic started, e-commerce is grown. I'm talking about GCC, this part of world, because we have got 40 years experience in this part of world. As rightly Mr. BinDawood told, people have experience of came to the store, see the products, see the ingredients, taste it, and take. That trend is also, that experience were there. Now it's changed to e-commerce platforms. So we have to get experience in that also. Otherwise, we cannot sustain in this market. So we transformed to e-commerce and telephone delivery. That's also a system we started. So the new innovation in this new experience, we are going through this. But we are going to expand hypermarkets more. We are talking about Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Now we have got 40, then we'll go another 24 within 3 years. So that, and also we will increase our e-commerce platform.
Okay, and then really interesting to hear kind of a similar theme across the board of kind of the cross between commerce and entertainment, right? The joy of whether it's experiencing a new recipe or seeing something new for the first time or touching and feeling the products.
Yes.
And I think that kind of delight that's coming with shopping sounds like will be a key component of the commerce moving forward. I think that brings us to the end of our session. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your great insights, and thank you to our audience for your attention and participation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Omar.
Thank you.